Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. I misspoke while recording it. It's from my YouTube. Finding Audrey, a novel by Sophie Kinsella. And it's dedicated, quote unquote, to all of my children who in their different ways have helped inspire this book. OMG, Mom's gone insane. Not normal mom insane, serious insane. Normal mom insane, Mom says, let's all do this great gluten-free diet. I read all about it in the Daily Mail. Mom buys 3 loaves of gluten-free bread. It's so disgusting, our mouths curl up. The family goes on strike, and Mom hides her sandwich in the flower bed, and next week we're not gluten-free anymore. That's normal mom insane. But this is serious insane. She's standing at her bedroom window, which overlooks Rosewood Close, where we live. No. Standing sounds too normal. Mom does not look normal. She's teetering, leaning over the edge, a wild look in her eye. And she's holding my brother Frank's computer. It's balanced precariously on the window ledge. Any minute, it'll crash down to the ground. That's 700 pounds worth of computer. Does she realize this? 700 pounds. She's always telling us we don't know the value of money. She's always saying stuff like, do you have any idea how hard it is to earn 10 pounds and you wouldn't waste that electricity if you had to pay for it? Well, how about earning 700 pounds and then deliberately smashing it on the ground? Below us on the front lawn, Frank is scampering about in his Big Bang Theory t-shirt, clutching his head and gibbering with panic. Mom? His voice has gone all high-pitched with terror. Mom, that's my computer. I know it's your computer, Mom cries hysterically. Don't you think I know that? Mom, please, can we talk about this? I've tried talking, Mom lashes back. I've tried cajoling, arguing, pleading, reasoning, bribing. I've tried everything, Frank. But I need my computer. You do not need your computer, Mom yells so furiously that I flinch. Mommy is going to throw the computer, says Felix, running onto the grass and looking up in disbelieving joy. Felix is our little brother. He's 4. He greets most life events with disbelieving joy. A lorry in the street, ketchup, an extra long chip. Mom throwing a computer out of the window is just another one on the list of daily miracles. Yes, and then the computer will break, says Frank fiercely, and you won't be able to play Star Wars ever again, ever. Felix's face crumples in dismay, and Mom flinches with fresh anger. Frank, she yells, do not upset your brother. Now our neighbors across the street, the McDougans, have come out to watch. Their 12-year-old son, Ollie, actually yells, no, when he sees what Mom's about to do. Mrs. Turner. He hurries across the street to our lawn and gazes up pleadingly along with Frank. Ollie sometimes plays Land of Conquerors online with Frank if Frank's in a kind mood and doesn't have anyone else to play with. Now, Ollie looks even more freaked out than Frank. Please don't break the computer, Mrs. Turner, he says, trembling. It has all Frank's backed-up game commentaries on it. They're so funny. He turns to Frank. They're really funny. Thanks, mutters Frank. Your mom's really like, he blinks nervously. She's like Goddess Warrior Enhanced Level 7. What? Demands Mom. It's a compliment, snaps Frank, rolling his eyes. Which you'd know if you played. Level 8, he corrects Ollie. Right, Ollie hastily agrees, 8. You can't even communicate in English. Mom flips. Real life is not a series of levels. Mom, please, Frank chimes in. I'll do anything. I'll stack the dishwasher. I'll phone Grandma every night. He casts wildly about. I'll read to deaf people. Read to deaf people? Can you actually hear what he's saying? Deaf people? Mom explodes. Deaf people? I don't need you to read to deaf people. You're the bloody deaf one around here. You never hear anything I say. You always have those wretched earphones in. And I turn to see Dad joining the fray, and a couple of neighbors are stepping out of their front doors. This is officially a neighborhood incident. "Anne," Dad calls again. "Let me do this, Chris," says Mom warningly, and I can see Dad gulp. My dad is tall and handsome in a car advert way, and he looks like the boss, but inside, he isn't really an alpha male. No, that sounds bad. He's alpha in a lot of ways, I suppose, only Mom is even more alpha. She's strong and bossy and pretty and bossy. I said bossy twice, didn't I? Well, draw your own conclusions from that. "I know you're angry, sweetheart," Dad's saying soothingly, "but isn't this a little extreme?" "Extreme? He's extreme. He's addicted, Chris." "I'm not addicted," Frank yells. "I'm just saying..." "What?" Mom finally turns her head to look at Dad properly. "What are you saying?" "If you drop it there, you'll damage the car," Dad winces. "Maybe shift to the left a little." "I don't care about the car. This is tough love." She tilts the computer more precariously on the window ledge, and we all gasp, including the watching neighbors. "Love?" Frank is shouting up at Mom. "If you love me, you wouldn't break my computer." "Well, if you love me, Frank, you wouldn't get up at 2 a.m. behind my back to play online with people in Korea." "You got up at 2 a.m.? says Ollie to Frank wide-eyed. "Practicing," Frank shrugs. "I was practicing," he repeats to Mom with emphasis. "I have a tournament coming up. You've always said I should have a goal in life. Well, I have." "Playing Land of Conquerors is not a goal." Oh gosh. She bangs her head on the computer. "Where did I go wrong?" "Oh, Audrey," says Ollie, suddenly spotting me. "Hi, how are you?" I shrink back from my position at my bedroom window in fright. My window is tucked away in a corner, and no one was meant to notice me, least of all Ollie, who I'm pretty sure has a tiny crush on me, even though he's 2 years younger than me and barely reaches up to my chest. "Look, it's a celebrity," quips Ollie's dad, Rob. He's been calling me the celebrity for the last 4 weeks, even though Mom and Dad have separately been over to ask him to stop. He thinks it's funny and that my parents have no sense of humor. Parentheses, I've often noticed that people equate having a sense of humor with being an insensitive moron. Close parentheses. This time, though, I don't think Mom or Dad has even heard Rob's oh-so-witty joke. Mom is still moaning, "Where did I go wrong?" And Dad is peering up at her anxiously. "You didn't go wrong," he calls up. "Nothing's wrong." "Darling, come down and have a drink. Put the computer down. For now," he adds hastily at her expression. "You can throw it out the window later." Mom doesn't move an inch. The computer is rocking still more precariously on the windowsill, and Dad flinches. "Sweetheart, I'm just thinking about the car. We've only just paid it off." He moves towards the car and holds out his hands as though to shield her from plummeting hardware. "Get a blanket," says Ollie, springing to life. "Save the computer. We need a blanket. We'll form a circle." Mom doesn't even seem to hear him. "I breastfed you," she shrieks at Frank. "I read you Winnie the Pooh. All I wanted was a well-rounded son who would be interested in books and art and the outdoors and museums and maybe competitive sport." "LOC is a competitive sport," yells Frank. "You don't know anything about it. It's a serious thing. You know, the prize pot in the international LOC competition in Toronto this year is $6 million. "So you keep telling us," Mom erupts. "So what? You're going to win that, are you? Make your fortune?" "Maybe," he gives her a dark look, "if I get enough practice." "Frank, get real." Her voice echoes around the close, shrill, and almost scary. "You're not entering the international LOC competition. You are not going to win the bloody $6 million prize pot, and you're not going to make your living from gaming. It's not going to happen." A month earlier. It all begins with the Daily Mail. Quite a lot of things in our house begin with the Daily Mail. Mom starts twitching in that way that she does. We've had supper and cleared away, and she's been reading the paper with a glass of wine. Me time, she calls it. And she's paused at an article. I can see the headline over her shoulder. The 8 signs your child is addicted to computer games. Oh my gosh, I hear her murmur. Oh my gosh! Her finger is moving down the list and she's breathing fast. As I squint over, I catch a subheading. 7. Irritability and moodiness. Ha, ha, ha. That's my hollow laugh in case you didn't get that. I mean, seriously, moodiness? Like, James Dean was a moody teenager in Rebel Without a Cause. Parentheses, I have the poster, best film poster ever. Best movie ever, sexiest movie star ever. Why did he have to die? Close parentheses. So, James Dean must therefore have been addicted to video games? Oh, wait. Exactly. But there's no point saying any of this to Mom. Because it's logical. My mom doesn't believe in logic. She believes in horoscopes and green tea. Oh, and of course, the Daily Mail. The 8 signs my mom is addicted to the Daily Mail. 1, she reads it every day. 2, she believes everything it says. 3, if you try and take it out of her grasp, she pulls it back sharply and says, "Leave it!" like you're trying to kidnap her precious young. 4, when it runs a scary story about vitamin D, she makes us all take our shirts off and quote-unquote sunbathe. Parentheses, freeze bathe is more like it. Close parentheses. 5, when it runs a scary story about melanoma, she makes us all put on sunscreen. 6, when it runs a story about the face cream that really does work, she orders it that moment, like she gets out her iPad then and there. 7, if she can't get it on holiday, she gets major withdrawal symptoms. I mean, talk about irritability and moodiness. 8, she once tried to give it up for Lent. She lasted half a morning. Anyway, there's nothing I can do about my mom's tragic dependency, except hope that she doesn't do too much damage to her life. Parentheses, she's already done major damage to our living room after reading an interiors piece about why not hand paint all of your furniture. Close parentheses. So then Frank ambles into the kitchen wearing his black I'm Mod, Therefore I Am t-shirt and his earphones in and his phone in his hand. Mom lowers the Daily Mail and stares at him as though the scales have fallen from her eyes. Parentheses, I've never understood that. Scales? Question mark. Anyway, whatever. Close parentheses. Frank, she says, how many hours have you played on your computer games this week? Define computer games, Frank says without looking up from his phone. What? Mom looks at me uncertainly and I shrug. You know, computer games. How many hours? Frank, she yells as he makes no move to respond. How many hours? Take those things out of your ears. What? Says Frank, taking his earphones out. He blinks at her as though he didn't hear the question. Is this important? Yes, this is important, Mom spits. I want you to tell me how many hours you're spending per week playing computer games. Right now. Add it up. I can't, Frank says calmly. You can't? What do you mean you can't? I don't know what you're referring to, says Frank with elaborate patience. Do you mean literally computer games? Or do you mean all screen games, including Xbox and PlayStation? Do you include games on my phone? Define your terms. Frank is such a moron. Couldn't he see Mom was in one of her pre-rant build-ups? I mean, anything that warps your mind, says Mom, brandishing the Daily Mail. Do you realize the dangers of these games? Do you realize your brain isn't developing properly? Your brain, Frank, your most precious organ. Frank gives a dirty snicker, which I can't help giggling at. Frank is actually pretty funny. I'll ignore that, says Mom stonily. It only goes to prove what I was saying. No, it doesn't, says Frank and opens the fridge. He takes out a carton of chocolate milk and drains it. Straight from the carton, which is gross. Don't do that, I say furiously. There's another carton, relax. I'm putting a limit on your playing, young man. Mom bats the Daily Mail for emphasis. I've just about had enough of this. Young man? That means she's about to drag Dad into it. Anytime she starts using young man or young woman, sure enough, the next day there's some ghastly family meeting where Dad tries to back up everything Mom says, even though he can't follow half of it. Anyway, not my problem. until Mom arrives in my bedroom that evening and demands, "Audrey, what is Land of Conquerors?" I look up from Grazia and survey her. She looks tense. Her cheeks are pink and her right hand is all clenched as if she's just come off a computer mouse. She's been Googling computer game addiction. I just know she has. A game. I know it's a game. Mom sounds exasperated. But why does Frank play it all the time? You don't play it all the time, do you? No. I played LOC, and I really don't get the obsession. I mean, it's okay for an hour or two. So what's the appeal? Well, I think for a moment it's exciting, you get rewards, and the heroes are pretty good. Like, the graphics are amazing, and they just released this new warrior team with new capabilities, so I shrug. Mom looks more bewildered than ever. The trouble is she doesn't play games, so it's kind of impossible to convey to her the difference between LOC 3 and, say, Pac-Man from 1985. They show it on YouTube, I say in sudden inspiration. People do commentaries. Hang on. As I'm finding a clip on my iPad, Mom sits down and looks around the room. She's trying to act casual, but I can sense her beady blue eyes scanning my piles of stuff, looking for... what? Anything, everything. The truth is, Mom and I haven't done casual for a while. Everything is loaded. With everything that's happened, that's one of the saddest things of all. We can't be normal with each other anymore. The tiniest thing I say, Mom's all over it. Even if she doesn't realize it, her brain goes into overdrive. What does it mean? Is Audrey all right? What's Audrey really saying? I can see her looking closely at a pair of old ripped jeans on my chair, as though they hold some dark significance. Whereas in fact, the only significance they hold is I've grown out of them. I've shot up about 3 inches in the last year, which makes me 5'8", quite tall for 14. People say I look like Mom, but I'm not as pretty as her. Her eyes are so blue, like blue diamonds. Mine are wishy-washy, not that they're particularly visible right now. Just so you can visualize me. I'm fairly skinny, fairly nondescript, wearing a black vest top and skinny jeans, and I wear dark glasses all the time, even in the house. It's, well, a thing. My thing, I suppose. Hence the celebrity quips from Rob, our neighbor. He saw me in my dark glasses getting out of the car in the rain, and he was all like, "Why the shades? Are you Angelina Jolie?" I'm not trying to be cool. There's a reason, which of course now you want to know. I assume. Okay, it's actually quite private. I'm not sure I'm ready to tell you yet. You can think I'm weird if you like. Enough people do. Here we are. I find a clip of some LOC battle with Archie commentating. Archie is a YouTuber from Sweden who makes videos that Frank loves. They consist of Archie playing LOC and making funny commentaries on the game, and as I expected, it takes me forever to explain this concept to Mom. But why would you watch someone else playing? She keeps saying, baffled. Why? Isn't that a complete waste of time? Well, anyway, I shrug. That's LOC. There's silence for a moment. Mom is peering at the screen like some professor trying to decipher an ancient Egyptian code. There's an almighty explosion, and she winces. Why does it always have to be about killing? If I designed a game, it would center on ideas, politics, issues. Yes, I mean, why not? I can tell her brain's firing up with a new idea. What about a computer game called Discuss? You could keep the competitive element, but score points by debating. And that is why we're not squillionaires, I say, as though to a third party. I'm about to find another clip when Felix comes running into the room. Candy Crush, he says in delight as soon as he spies my iPad, and Mom gasps in horror. How does he know about that? She demands. Turn it off. I'm not having another addict in the family. Oops. It may possibly have been me who introduced Felix to Candy Crush. Not that he has any idea how to play it properly. I close down the iPad and Felix stares at it crestfallen. Candy Crush, he wails. I want to play Candy Crush. It's broken, Felix. I pretend to press the iPad. See? Broken. Broken, affirms Mom. Felix looks from us to the iPad. You can sense his mind is working as hard as his 4-year-old brain cells will let him. We must buy a plug, he suggests with sudden animation and grabs the iPad. We can buy a plug and fix it. The plug shop's closed, says Mom without missing a beat. What a shame. We'll do it tomorrow, but guess what? We're going to have toast and Nutella now. Toast and Nutella! Felix's face bursts into joyous beams. As he throws up his arms, Mom grabs the iPad from him and gives it to me. 5 seconds later, I've hidden it behind a cushion on the bed. Where did the Candy Crush go? Felix suddenly notices its disappearance and screws up his face to howl. We're taking it to the plug shop, remember? Says Mom at once. Plug shop, I nod. But hey, you're going to have toast and Nutella. How many pieces are you going to have? Poor old Felix. He lets Mom lead him out of the room, still looking confused. Totally outmaneuvered. That's what happens when you're 4. Bet Mom wishes she could pull that trick on Frank. So now Mom knows what LOC is, and knowledge is power, according to Kofi Annan. Although, as Leonardo da Vinci said, where there is shouting, there is no true knowledge, which might apply better to our family. Parentheses, please don't think I'm super well read or anything. Mom bought me a book of quotations last month, and I flick through it when I'm watching telly. Close parentheses. Anyway, knowledge is power isn't really happening here because Mom has no power over Frank at all. It's Saturday evening and he's been playing LOC ever since lunchtime. He disappeared into the playroom straight after pudding. Then there was a ring at the doorbell and I scuttled out of the way into the den, which is my own private place. Now it's nearly 6 and I've crept into the kitchen for some Oreos to find Mom striding around all twitchy. She's exhaling and looking at the clock and exhaling again. They're all computer addicts, she says in a sudden burst. I've asked them to turn off about 25 times. Why can't they do it? It's a simple switch. On, off. Maybe they're on a level, I begin. Levels! Mom cuts me off savagely. I'm tired of hearing about levels. I'm giving them 1 more minute, then that's it. I take an Oreo and pry it open. So, who's with Frank? A friend from school. I haven't met him before. Linus, I think he's called. Linus. I remember Linus. He was in that school play To Kill a Mockingbird, and he played Atticus Finch. Frank was Crowd. Frank goes to Cardinal Nichols School, which is just up the road from my school, Stokeland Girls School. And sometimes the 2 schools join together for plays and concerts and stuff. Although, to be truthful, Stokeland isn't my school anymore. I haven't been since February because some stuff happened there. Not great stuff. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. After that, I got ill. Now I'm going to change schools and go down a year so I won't fall behind. The new school is called Heath Academy, and they said it would be sensible to start in September rather than the summer term when it's mainly exams. So, till then, I'm home. I mean, I don't do nothing. They've sent me lots of reading suggestions and math books and French vocab lists. Everyone's agreed it's vital I keep up with my schoolwork and, quote, it will make you feel so much better, Audrey, and, quote, in parentheses, it so doesn't, close parentheses. So sometimes I send in a history essay or something and they send it back with some red comments. It's all a bit random. Anyway, the point is, Linus was in the play, and he was a really good Atticus Finch. He was noble and heroic, and everyone believed him. Like, he has to shoot a rabid dog in one scene, and the prop gun didn't work on our night, but no one in the audience laughed or even murmured. That's how good he was. He came around to our house once before a rehearsal, just for about 5 minutes, but I still remember it. Actually, that's kind of irrelevant. I'm about to remind Mom that Linus played Atticus Finch when I realize she's left the kitchen. A moment later, I hear her voice. You've played enough, young man. Young man. I dart over to the door and look through the crack. As Frank strides into the hall after Mom, his face is quivering with fury. We hadn't reached the end of the level. You can't just switch off the game. Do you understand what you did just then, Mom? Do you even know how Land of Conquerors works? He sounds properly irate. He stopped right underneath where I am, his black hair falling over his pale forehead, his skinny arms filling and his big bony hands gesticulating furiously. I hope Frank grows into his hands and feet one day. They can't stay so comically huge, can they? The rest of him has to catch up, surely. He's 15, so he could still grow a foot. Dad's 6 foot, but he always says Frank will end up taller than him. It's fine, says a voice that I recognize. It's Linus, but I can't see him through the crack. I'll go home. Thanks for having me. Don't go home, exclaims Mom in her best charming to visitors voice. Please don't go home, Linus. It's not what I meant at all. But if we can't play games, Linus sounds flummoxed. Are you saying the only form of socializing you boys understand is playing computer games? Do you know how sad that is? Well, what do you suggest we do? Says Frank sulkily. I think you should play badminton. It's a nice summer's evening. The garden's beautiful. And look what I found. She holds out the ropey old badminton set to Frank. The net is all twisted, and I can see that some animal has nibbled at one of the shuttlecocks. I want to laugh at Frank's expression. Mom? He appears almost speechless with horror. Where did you even find that? Or croquet, adds Mom brightly. That's a fun game. Frank doesn't even answer. He looks so stricken by the idea of croquet. I actually feel quite sorry for him. Or hide and seek? I give a snort of laughter and clap my hand over my mouth. I can't help it. Hide and seek. Or rummy cube, says Mom, sounding desperate. You always used to love rummy cube. I like rummy cube, volunteers Linus, and I feel a tweak of approval. He could have legitimately laid into Frank at this point, walked straight out of the house and put on Facebook that Frank's house sucks. But he sounds like he wants to please Mom. He sounds like one of those people who look around and think, well, why not make life easier for everyone? Parentheses, I'm getting this from 3 words you understand, close parentheses. You want to play rummy cube? Frank sounds incredulous. RUMMIKUB, I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, end of side note. Why not? Says Linus easily, and a moment later the two of them head off towards the playroom. Parentheses, Mom and Dad repainted it and called it the teenage study when I turned 13, but it's still the playroom. Close parentheses. Next moment, Mom is back in the kitchen pouring herself a glass of wine. There, she says, they just need a little guidance, a little parental control. I simply open their minds. They're not addicted to computers. They just need to be reminded what else is out there. She's not talking to me. She's talking to the imaginary Daily Mail judge who constantly watches her life and gives it marks out of 10. I don't think Rummy Cube is a very good game for 2, I say. I mean, it would take ages to get rid of all your tiles. I can see Mom's thoughts snagging on this. I'm sure she has the same image I do. Frank and Linus sitting grimly across from each other at the Rummy Cube table, hating it and deciding that all board games are rubbish and total pants. You're right, she says at last. Maybe I'll go and play with them. Make it more fun. She doesn't ask me if I want to play too, for which I'm grateful. Well, have a good time, I say, and take out the Oreo packet. I scoot through the kitchen into the den, and it's only as I'm zapping on the telly that I hear Mom's voice resounding through the house from the playroom. I didn't mean online rummage. Our house is like a weather system. It ebbs and flows, flares up and subsides. It has times of radiant blue bliss, days of gray dismalness and thunderstorms that flare up out of nowhere. Right now the storm's coming my way. Thunder, lightning, Frank, Mom. What difference does it make? It makes every difference. I told you not to go on those computers anymore. Mom, it's the same bloody game. It's not. I want you off that screen. I want you playing a game with your friend in real life. It's no fun with 2 players. You might as well play, I don't know, bloody Snap. I know. Mom is almost shrieking. That's why I was coming to play with you. Well, I didn't bloody know that, did I? Stop swearing. If you swear at me, young man. I hear Frank make his angry Frank noise. It's a kind of rhinoceros bellow / scream of frustration. Bloody is not swearing, he says, breathing hard as though to rein in his impatience. It is. It's in the Harry Potter films, okay? Harry Potter? How can it be swearing? What? Mom sounds wrong-footed. Harry Potter, I rest my case. Don't you walk away from me, young man. Young man, that makes 3. Poor Dad, he will so get an earful when he arrives home. Hi. Linus's voice takes me by surprise, and I jump round in shock. Like, I literally jump. I'm pretty sharp in reflexes. Oversensitive, like the rest of me.